my problem's been, I guess people find me so like, you're so all over the place. We can't grab a hold of you to actually focus in on what, you're trying to tell us. So we're just going to give up and just leave you alone. So I'm trying to hone it all down. I'm trying to calm down a little bit and let people grasp a hold of what they find interesting in me that I talk about. So that way I can at least grasp a hold of people and let them follow me along. And that's really, I'm not looking for followers, but I am looking for people that were like into the same things that I'm into. So I can have like kind of, like a mini cult, I guess.
Yeah, well, a community.
Yeah, a community.
Probably a safer word.
I'll use cult. I've used it before.
I'm not going to stop.
There's going to be some kind of ritual at the end. I think when I reach like the 1000th episode, I might fucking sacrifice a goat live on YouTube or something.
I mean, why not? At that point,
I don't understand why I wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's for another podcast.
Why don't you tell me a story? Please tell me a story too.
I think I'll tell you the story.
Tell me.
And it was kind of a slow week too, so we thought I'd have my buddy Michael on. And Michael, why don't you introduce yourself?
From the Adventures of Michael Lee.
I never realized he had a podcast. From the Adventures of Michael Lee. He was pretty good at it. I mean, he was a lot of fun. And I never realized he had a podcast.
That's Mike from The Adventures of Michael Lee. No, he has a voice.
He does.
For radio.
Very creative. And I never realized he had a podcast.
And we also had Mike from The Adventures of Michael Lee. The amazing Michael, The Adventures of Michael Lee.
It is the Bay Area's #1 podcast for Michael Lee's.
Because it's way too much mic, we put a mic in between the mic.
Everything be like off the top these days. Like these days, I don't even know what a pad is these days, Yeah. That hoe, cause she a nat. You ain't the one for me, baby. You ain't got shit I need. You want me to take my time with you, or maybe I'm not your speed. Maybe I'm not your lead. You ain't even got no cheese. Maybe I'm just too G for you. Maybe I'm just too scream. I can even roll in peace. Why? Everybody notice me. Yeah. I can even go to sleep. Why? I'm rolling on the beam. Yeah. They tried to give me 8, got on my knee like Jesus, please. He don't even believe in Jesus. Why you got a Jesus, please? If you wanna leave, just leave. But you ain't gotta lie to me. Even the blind can see. But you ain't gon' ride for me. You ain't even showing me the love you say you got for me. There ain't no loyalty, you lied to me. You say that you gon' ride for me. Baby, that's bad for me. Yeah, baby, you're bad for me. Yeah, say you gon' clap for me. Yeah, say you gon' blast for me. Yeah, why you ain't show me none of the love you say you would have for me? Yeah, we're going through tragedy. Bitch, I needed you drastically. Yeah, I'ma just switch my flow up. Yeah, maybe I'm sick, no throw up. Yeah, maybe I'm sick, no check up.
What y'all doing? Why am I screaming? Screaming because I'm trying to figure out the levels on this thing. I'm trying something different. This time around, slide some new production in before the end of the year. But anyways, what's up? What y'all doing? Y'all recovering from holiday? Or if you're allowed to now that President Trump is giving you that freedom to refer to it as Christmas, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, whatever it is. Obviously, if you're subscribed to this podcast, The Adventures of Michael Lee podcast, by the way, I am your host, Michael Lee.
My name is
Michael Lee. I am, as you can see, messing around with, what is this? therapboard.com. Why? Why am I messing with this? Why am I subjecting you to all of this? The reason being is this is not just the holiday edition, a shared holiday edition with what I'll get to that later with Louis 3. I don't know if he's going by that moniker anymore. But Louis, my cousin, who you know from previous episodes, in fact, I thought of him as my my co-host. In fact, I wish that we lived close enough to each other to do more podcasts or even co-host maybe somewhere in the future. He and I are sharing the podcast that we recorded on Christmas, which you'll hear later at the end of this episode. He's posting that on his podcast, which is Don't Take This Personal, which just hit iTunes tonight. Actually, he just sent me a link. He just started a podcast, which is perfect to segue into the new year. A lot of you have New Year's resolutions, things that you want to do. I have not necessarily New Year's resolutions. I just got a lot of shit from 2017 that I need to patch up in 2018. But not to get off the subject too far, we'll get into that a little bit later. He started a new podcast this year in 2017. And we have an interview, or we do a podcast together, which I thought I was interviewing him. And then I realized it was ridiculous halfway because we're going to be sharing this episode on each other's podcasts. It's got to be balanced. Either way, 2017, Lewis started a podcast, something that he wanted to do, something that he had thought about for a while and finally just said, fuck it, and just went in, which is how you should do it. That's what you should do. You shouldn't wait for January 1st to do it. If it hits you in August, do it in August. That's what he did in the summertime. And my hat's off to him because he just did voice notes in a sense. If you have an iPhone or a smartphone, you have a voice recorder. And if you're not interested in podcasting, I'll tie it back to, general life for you. But he just started recording things that he thought would be interesting for his podcast, and he just threw it out there. Like I said, that was in August, and today, what's today, 28th? What are we looking at here? I guess December. Let's say it's December 28th. I don't know. That's one thing. Okay, about the iPhone. Why is maybe I shouldn't. Oh, there it is. December 29th, Friday. Never mind. I was just about to complain about my iPhone, and then it helped me. Yeah. So he just grabbed his smartphone and started recording stuff and just put it up there and figured it out. And that's what a lot of your resolutions probably are. Whether it's the most common, getting in shape, or maybe it's a financial thing, and maybe you'd be more financially in shape, or maybe it's a healthier version of a relationship that you're in. I don't know what it is, but just do it. And granted, the timing's right. If you do it within the next 40 to 72 hours, then sure, do it for 2018. I'm not much of a, this year sucked, next year is going to be better type of person, because if you talk to me in 2016, that was probably the best year of my life. If you asked me in 2016, I would have told you that it was the greatest year ever. And then if you ask me in 2017, which is, it's a little different. It's been a rougher patch for me in 2017, but I just don't feel like I want to be one of those people that's like, oh, I can't wait for this year to be behind. No, there's, time frames. I'll see you halfway. 2017 versus 2018, the new year, new me people. I'll see you halfway. I do that with my birthday. So for example, I even got notes here. Just in case I seem distracted before I get into this birthday thing, because Lewis started a podcast, not only did he start a podcast doing it solo, but he seeked out the help of a producer, by the way. I think his name's Stefan or something like that, or Steven. I don't remember. But he even has a producer now. So it made me feel like I need to step up my game. So what did I do? I did too much. Lou hits me with a text message asking me if I've produced this podcast. And of course I hadn't. And I was giving him a reason, I wasn't feeling it yet, or it just wasn't good timing, or whatever my excuse was a hesitation. It was an obstacle I put in front of myself. And I told myself, okay, talking to my, your inner bitch, hey, lazy fuck. Not only are you not going to do this podcast right now, but you're going to step up your game. So, the intro, the music, everything that you heard in the beginning here, I never do it live. What I do is I sit down in silence in my living room, and I yap into the microphone, and I take that, and I'm sorry if you're not technically savvy, and I might lose you here, but what I do is I record myself alone, and I put it into the computer, and then I mix everything together, which is cool. But I'm trying to throw more stuff at myself because I don't want a producer. I fancy myself more of a producer than I am an actual, I don't know, what do you say, orator, speaker? I'm more, I want to be able to do both. So what I've done now is I just recorded that whole thing live, which was that snippet of our conversation, the preview of the podcast to come, that intro song, the theme song, and then the intro song from Kodak Black. And then what did I do? I just added more shit to my plate, and I pulled up Rap Soundboard, which I've been having so much fun with. So part of the reason why the Kodak Black song that was on there, love it or hate it, I've just been really obsessed with like this ad lib soundbite production of rap music, like things like that just pop up all over the place. Like for example, Designer, or even better,
another one,
DJ Khaled,
another one.
Come on, man. Oh, dude.
Ghost Ride the Whip.
E40 for you. I don't know why I'm obsessed with this thing. I was a little baked the other day, and I was sitting here playing for hours on this thing. That's the Rap Board. If you're bored and you want to have some fun, for sure jump on that. But anyways, getting back to it. So my birthday. So what do? I don't do 2017 versus 2018. I do look at my birthdays, and I look at those as sort of chapters in my life. And a lot of times it's hard to even figure out how freaking old I was when I think about events in my life. It's really easy, obviously, through high school. And then the years that I was in the Air Force right after high school. But the 20s, yeah. I mean, I started working in bars and nightclubs in my 20s, and you couldn't, maybe even now. I mean, even now it's hard for me to be convinced that I would ever leave that industry. Bars and nightclubs, more specifically bars, felt more like of a community, whereas the nightclubs that I worked at were more celebrity driven or higher end acts. So when I look at my 20s and I think about all the cool shit that I got to do, typically it's tied to probably a famous musician, artist, celebrity, a situation that I was close to people. I was really close to being in management or in security or in VIP services. You're constantly face to face with celebrities and like I said, famous musicians. So when I look about those high moments and getting to meet my heroes, I tie it back to that. But when I think about like the heart and soul of my 20s, there was a lot of family stuff, and personal stuff that I won't get into, obviously relationships or things with family, births, deaths, all that stuff. It's not, I could definitely get into that. So if you're out there listening and you and I had a significant moment in my 20s, I'm not saying that I don't remember it, that I don't care, but I'm just trying to keep this thing aligned. With bars, that was a little bit more intimate and more, there was more of a bonding with friends and customers that became friends. There's a saying, that in the best of times and the worst of times, are the great for the bar business, because when people are celebrating, they go out and drink, and when they're things aren't going too good, then they seek the comfort of the local watering hole, which I think is great. I don't think maybe if you're anti-alcohol, or if you know somebody who struggled with alcohol, please understand I'm not celebrating anybody being a degenerate, but if anything, I have countless moments with people where I've taken them home. I was at one time a friend of mine. A friend of mine, a regular customer. Her friend. These two girls. One of them couldn't even walk anymore, and the other one couldn't get. The one girl couldn't get the other to the car, and I took them home and had to carry one of the girls into the house. So there I am carrying one of the girls into that house, a house I've never even been to before. Like I said, I was friends with them in a sense through the bar. And Dad was up waiting. And there is this strange guy, me, carrying his daughter like a newborn baby into the house. And I had a lot of explaining to do. Now, granted, I'm sure I had some sort of attire that made it obvious that I worked at the bar, but I just felt like, oh great, did he think I was just like carrying his daughter unconsciously into the house with some sort of weird plans? But those are moments, right? Those are things that I think about, and I think about how my 20s. I'm glad that I was working in nightlife and not just a spectator or a participant in the drinking and wasting my money. But yeah, this birthday just passed. So December 2nd was my birthday, and as a twin, I have a twin sister. My twin sister lives in Northern California. Veronica, hello, if you're listening. I always tell people as a twin that it's never been my birthday. Growing up, my sister and I would be dressed similar. I think that we had one year wore red pinstripes or blue pinstripes, or I'm sure there was some sort of a theme, but it's never been a real significant day for me, and it's actually become kind of an issue with people sometimes, because if like you take your birthday very seriously and you're close to me, it may make you think that I just don't care about birthdays at all. Maybe I don't care about your birthday, or maybe you think I'm being humble, or maybe I'm through some sort of insecurity masking my inner excitement. No, I'm not really that excited. I like to find excuses to do things. So if it's your birthday and you're my friend, I might want to find stuff to do around your birthday just to have an excuse to do something. And I couldn't find. We had made efforts at Awesome Germ, who I speak about all the time on this podcast, who has still yet to have his own episode. If you're listening, I'm talking to you, dude. We're going to try to maybe do something at his house, but I think his house was under construction, so we couldn't do it there. I had friends locally that just had things going on. It's the holidays. That's one of the things that sucks too. Do you have a birthday in December? If you have a birthday in December, you know how it is. Or maybe it's early January. It fucking sucks because everybody's saving their money for the holidays, or they're buying stuff already. If they were really fucking on top of their shit, then they handle it on Black Friday or around Thanksgiving. But yeah, I'm pinned between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and then New Year's is right after. So people are traveling, people are, doing things. So people are tied up. I get it. Not even my day to begin with. So either way, I really had no plans. And at this job that we're working on right now, we needed to work. My birthday was on a Saturday. We needed to work on Saturday to get some things done. So I even worked on my birthday. So I got off work in the evening, still zero plans on my birthday. Not a big deal. I think I had sent a text message to Josh, Mr. Cooper, to see what he was up to. And he was right here down the street at the Beachcomber, which is a local bar that's about, I'd say, not even a quarter of a mile. Maybe an eighth of a mile. It takes like a couple minutes to walk over. You could probably see it from my front door if I had better eyes. And he was over there And I go to join him and whoever he's with, and lo and behold, there are my friends. David Loaf was there, Kelly was there, Ashley was there. So these are all people that are in my everyday life. These are people that I see every day. These are people from the neighborhood. Who not better to spend my birthday with spontaneously than to be with these people, right? So it really worked out, and thankfully Danielle, one of my favorite bartenders over at the Beachcomber, shout out to Danielle. She took really good care of me. Everybody else, Ashley picked up the bill. Thank you for that. Everybody took care of me, and I got super annihilated, which was a good time. And I was able to just stumble home a couple hours later. So, all this hoopla, all this back and forth about what was I going to do, or was there anything to do? All options were shut out. And then eventually when I just gave in and just strolled over, that was the perfect birthday. So, moral of the story, I guess, here is, maybe it's a much ado about nothing sort of thing, but, maybe less stress. Your people got you. And that's a theme for me in 2017. For me, I think that 2017 year in review, ultimately I had a lot of plans or lack of planning. But ultimately, the people that I've surrounded myself with have really made the difference. And so, it's not Thanksgiving or Christmas. It's not quite New Year's for a couple of days, but I want to give thanks and appreciation to not just the people around me, but to those of you who support me on social media, download and listen to this podcast. Again, even if you're not a part of my personal life, this was a year where I really needed a lot of support and a lot of help. And I'm glad we're still here going into 2018. Hopefully things are already things are already great. So it's only going to get better in 2018. Hopefully for you, it also gets better in 2018, because guess what, guys? You got no choice. You have to. 2018's coming. Another year in, another year gone.
You don't love me no more?
I don't know, do we?
Another one.
Another year, right?
Another one.
These things are so great. Who else do we have on here? So basically what this is, it's a soundboard, and there's all these little cutouts of these rappers' faces so you don't get to know what they say until you memorize the board. So it's kind of fun to poke around. Like this one says Lil Jon. I have no idea what this is.
What? Yeah!
Never gets old. Wheezy.
Young money, cash money.
He sounds like me. Ugh.
Young money, cash money.
No, I mean nasally.
Yes, sir.
I was so annoyed with this interview that's coming up, this podcast. I don't know why I call it an interview. This podcast that's coming up, because I'm getting over a cold, and I was so congested and runny nosed and blah, 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 blah. I mean, naturally I have a nasally voice, I think. I've had surgery. I've had rhinoplasty done, which is like the bone, I guess, and a septoplasty, the septum, the inside. I've had that done. From taking an elbow to the face. But yeah, what are we doing here? Another thing I'm doing, I'm juggling notes here. I typically will review my notes before I jump into this podcast, but hey, I'm getting better. Lou, I know you're listening. You've got a producer, and you're stepping up your game, so I have to stay ahead of you. I have to step up my game. I'm now producing my own and juggling multiple apps here. Tied into the recording equipment. So it's a good time. But yeah, so what else happened? So I did get to meet up with some of my friends in LA and sort of, celebrate a little late. My friend Nicole, who you know from the podcast, Nicole, got us tickets to go see FKJ and Masego in Pomona downtown. Now, if you're unaware of FKJ, you need to get on the train, because FKJ does a really good job. Let me see if I can find something out here. What's this? Vibe it out. See if I can play something for you. Does a really good job of sort of composing and orchestrating all the instruments himself. He had some help from some vocalists, but it was just really cool to just be able to watch him dance around and compose all this music live. Because as a person who records music, other people's music, and my own voice for podcasting, it was awesome to see somebody, and inspiring to see somebody like this guy just do it live in front of an audience with music and vocals. You got to imagine that he was a guy one year in let's say it's 2007, that decided he wanted to start being a recording artist in 2008, and he followed his resolution, his intuition. But yeah, that was great. Did a little Abbott Kinney for brunch the next day with Treb and Tommy. I think you've met both of them through the podcast. Yeah, Tommy was on the Coachella episode. Treb's been a part of the podcast as well. Shout out to those guys as well. But yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time. What else happened? What else is going on? I feel like I have to mention a lot of these things, but here's one thing about taking notes, and I don't know if you guys take notes. I'm a huge note taker. I recently, while interviewing and campaigning for a new career, have dusted off old notes. So in my old profession, I just have countless notebooks of notes that I would take, and people would think that it was ridiculous. In fact, I wouldn't even review them. I would just collect them. And what was perfect for interviewing in the process is, for anybody who's someone in a hiring position, or somebody who's out there looking right now, one of the things that always comes up is they want specific details, and you need to provide specific details. But a lot of the times we don't remember the specifics. We remember generally. But one of the cool things about me reviewing my notes is I had dates, times, numbers. I had it all there, which is great. But it's kind of hard to decipher. So I'm looking at some notes here to talk about on this podcast this year and review this holiday episode. And I'm having a hard time really understanding what the hell I was trying to convey. But either way, Christmas kind of worked out the same way as my birthday did. So I hadn't quite figured out how I was going to get home. And for those of you that travel during the holidays, you know how this goes, is the longer you wait, the more expensive it gets, and the least convenient the time frames are. You fill your calendar between now and then with other obligations, and it just becomes a big cluster. And, it was coming down to the wire, and I had to submit to the fact that I'm not going to go home for the holidays. It's been a pretty depressing year, and I couldn't. I don't want to say that I may have subconsciously allowed myself the inconvenience of going home in hopes that maybe I could just avoid family. And it's not that I don't love my family, and it's not that I don't enjoy my family. I love my family. They're great. But there is this factor of letdown. So if you are a person who feels that your year wasn't up to par, maybe you let yourself down, maybe you let somebody else down, having to face people that you may feel like you had let down is going to be tough, especially during the holidays. And I don't think my family members really think that I let them down, but I really felt like I'd let myself down. And there were some letdowns this year that are sort of lingering. And I called my mom, and I was just on the phone with her. And God, I mean, that's a tough call too. Have you ever had to make that phone call to tell your parents you're not coming home for the holidays? I was stationed halfway across the world in England, and I would take a direct flight from Heathrow to SFO, 11 hours flight to be home every year. I'm in San Diego, and I got to get to, Stockton, Modesto area to see them. kind of a poor excuse. And my mom, being a mom, had, you know, her satellites out, and she knew what everybody was doing. And my sister Alyssa and her husband Mark, who live in Riverside, also were up against some time constraints. And guess what they were doing? They're leaving Christmas morning, and they are driving straight up there, doing Christmas with the family, and coming straight back down the next day. And for those of you who don't understand the geography of it all here in Southern California, San Diego is damn near Mexico and California. And it's a straight shot to Northern California, about 7 hours. Riverside, where Alyssa and Mark live, is literally like a couple hours from me. So there's no excuse. All I got to do is get my ass to Riverside, and they got me. I'll just carpool with them. What also worked out was last Christmas Eve, we were hanging out in Jeremy and Joel's house and watching Star Wars like some little kids, me, Treb, Jeremy, Joel, a whole bunch of people were there, I believe. And, you know, like kids, we stayed up late. We watched Star Wars. We woke up Christmas morning on the couch with each other. It was great. And I wanted to do that again because that was awesome. I mean, there was a part of, what up, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cooper. Sorry, he just walked in. I'm recording the intro to my podcast, but I'll cut it short. So I don't even know if maybe this would be easier. Maybe I'll pretend like I'm talking to Josh. So anyway, so I get a hold of Jeremy, and I'm just telling him, hey man, let's get together and do Christmas Eve, and let's do it at your house. Let's party. Let's wake up on Christmas. Let's be friends, you know, before we do family. And one of the funny things about that is that I remember from last year was I had taken a step back on social media in 2017. I had scaled and dialed back a lot on Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, much to, I don't want to say much to dismay, but I took on a lot of criticism. I don't know if any of you have done this, where you try to just break away from technology, just try to like separate yourself a little bit. I downgraded to a tiny iPhone, the iPhone SE. It looks like an iPhone 5. People bust my balls all the time about it, but I didn't feel the need to have a giant brand new iPhone anymore. I needed to dial it back. I didn't need to be on social media all the time. And Jeremy had made a comment. I don't remember his exact words, but basically saying like maybe our friendship wasn't, maybe our activity wasn't as frequent anymore because I'm not engaged in social media. And my response to him was like, dude, I woke up on your couch Christmas morning. We're fucking friends. We're good. Don't worry about it. And I think that, I mean, you guys get it, right? That's part of the reason why I do this podcast is I would rather sit here and talk and get it all worked out versus, you know, trying to portray some sort of image on social media with, you know, highlights of my day and, you know, pictures that may depict some sort of aesthetic that I'm trying to throw out there and sort of, you know, become this architect and designing this image of this life that I have. I'd rather have it raw and cut like this. I'd rather have, you know, people walking in and me not being able to handle this technology all too much. But anyways, so we got to do it again. I got to spend Christmas Eve with those guys, and we're gonna make it a tradition. And if you guys, I'm sure you guys do this, right? Everybody has like, what is it, like the Thanksgiving Friendsgivings and things of that nature. I think it's great. Whether you enjoy the holidays or not, it's a perfect time. People are off of work. People have short days. Take some time and really like your true ones. You know what I mean? Your real friends. Everybody gets busy, and it's not really about religion or presence or any of that. It's just spend time, man, which is great. But Either way, so I did that. And the cool thing about that is that it's San Marcos is where they live. So San Marcos is on the way to Riverside. So I got to cut my commute in half. I got to drive an hour up there, cut that out. Only had to wake up and drive an hour to Riverside, and bam, what do you got? You got family road trip. So me, Mark, and Alyssa cruised up to the Bay Area, knocked it out, and came back. So for those of you who have issues traveling, and maybe like me fucking procrastinate until the last fucking minute, I get it. But just like my birthday, Josh, you were there for that, and Christmas, it was much ado about nothing. The moment that I stopped stressing and putting obstacles in front of me and making phone calls and text messages, trying to coordinate, finally we just submit. Everything falls into place, and you're with the right people. So there you go. There's your fucking sentimental holiday episode 2017 year in review. Lewis and I are going to talk about his podcast. So he started at Lewis3 on social media. He started a new podcast called Don't Take This Personal. As you can hear from the preview in the beginning of this episode, he's trying something out new, and he does say things that you could take personal, and he's working on it. He mentions it in the episode. There's one thing that you do gain from putting yourself out there in social media and podcasting is self-awareness, because now you have tons of people listening to you, and you're going to get some feedback. So if you're a shithead, you're going to get shithead comments. I'm not saying that he is, but he does talk about how his messages weren't received the way he wanted to. So he has had to work on it, which is part of the process. So for you in 2017 going into 2018, if you have New Year's resolutions that you're afraid to do, listen to this guy. He didn't wait until New Year's. He did it in August, in the middle of the summer. He just fucking did it, and he's going through it, and he went through it, and it's always constantly evolving and changing. So is mine. You guys are very aware of, the things that I've gone on to. I'm not trying to be inspirational, but I'm saying that's just it, man. You start a new job, you got to learn how to do it. You want to start a podcast, you're going to go through it. You want to lose weight, guess what? It's going to take time. It's going to be 30 days to build the habit, 60 days before you even feel any better, 90 days before you see results. It's a process. 10,000 hours. Anyways, so I got to get going. It's Friday night. We got to get this weekend started. Hopefully you're not sitting around keeping your friends waiting while you're listening to this podcast. All right. So I don't know how the fuck I'm going to get out of this. Because now I'm doing something new with this whole thing. I'll tell you what I will do is I'm just going to do as I normally do and cut this monologue off. So yeah, here's Lewis3 right about now. Well, at some point I'll edit this.
Oh, sweet. That sounds good. Is this going to be your podcast? And then I'll just put it on mine too? We could share it. Yeah, a sharecast? A sharecast. We could do a sharecast. Let's do that. I'm down. Oh, someone left the fridge open.
You got a podcast.
I do.
Merry Christmas, first of all.
Merry Christmas, man.
So
Merry Christmas for fucking sure. No fights, no weapons this year. It's a
nope.
Accomplished.
No nothing. What did so your podcast is like what, 25 episodes in?
No, I'm deeper than that. By the time people hear this, I mean, I'll be like 31 or 32 deep.
How many did you have already made?
Like locked and loaded, ready to pump out? Probably like, I think 14 or 15.
And those were all on voice notes on your phone?
They were voice memoed, yeah. They were voice memoed down. And then, so the way I did it was I would sit down in front of my computer and I would have my phone positioned in a certain way where it would catch speaker noise and my voice equally. Kind of like, I guess like a stereo effect in a sense. It'd be like two lines, but it was just my voice memo open. So then I would record, and the music that would fade in and out in the beginning and end, the intros and outros, I would do manually, like one take Drakes. So in the earlier episodes, what you hear is me manually playing the music and manually fading it out and talking and doing my podcast. While I'm talking, I'm looking up stuff on the internet, and then I'm looking up the song to play at the end.
So you faded the music in and out from your laptop or something?
From my desktop, yeah, because I
Okay.
have a whole, a comfortable desk to lean on and stuff to get comfortable on to sit there for an hour.
So when you're recording your podcast, you use the music on your desktop and you just move the volume up and then moved it down?
Yeah, I would like preconceive songs and stuff. Like I would set up windows at a time and go windows at a time and click by click. And then before I knew it, 45 minutes would be passed and I'd sign out and then play the music I had set up already before I even started. What's up, cuz?
What are you doing?
Podcasting. That's awesome.
There you go. Heard it here, heard it here first, folks.
That's our family, yeah.
Yeah.
You want to say something?
Meow.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
It is.
Meow, it is, yeah. Yeah, so it's interesting the way I did it. When people heard it for the first time without knowing, it was interesting for them to ask me how I did it, what programs I used, and how like I was doing it just period. And I told them exactly what I just said. I was like, it was all one take Drake stuff. I'd preconceive stuff with like the music, and then I'd just go off and then end the podcast, and that was just what it was for like 15 episodes.
Okay. So you chose Podbean as the app and the service for your podcast?
Originally, I was using SoundCloud, but they wouldn't host a catalog like I wanted to. And Libsyn had a, I guess, megabit or kilobit limit for us.
Okay.
So we went the kind of like $20 a month payment straight up, and they would let us host as many megabits and stuff as we wanted. The episodes can be as long as they wanted, and
it archives all the episodes.
all of them. Yeah,
Okay.
it's awesome. I mean, all of them.
So if people were looking to start a podcast, you would recommend that they go to Podbean?
See, I don't know. I've only used Podbean, so I don't know. You use Libsyn, and Libsyn seems to be working out, and other people use other sources, and it seems to
Right.
work out for what they do. I think what you want to do, there's different podcasts, like hosted websites that are for you, you know? Because I pump them out 1 or 2 a week, so I needed to find a website that would host so many episodes, because I'm going into the hundreds, I can already tell. I did this I started in August, and it's Christmas, and I'm 30 some odd episodes deep. This is going to go for a while.
Right. So do you plan on sticking with Podbean because they're going to give you that unlimited data allotment, or?
Well, probably, and then I'll take the feed and move over to iTunes like we plan on doing real quick.
Right.
And then we'll just be on the apps everywhere on iTunes. You can find it on iTunes. You can find it on Podbean, whatever one you're using. It doesn't matter. I mean, I just want to be on all of them that are reachable to everyone in their phones and on their computers. And it seems to be like the Apple products. And then it seems to be, whatever app, because I just picked Podbean and I threw it out there. I'm like, hey, that's where you can find it. And people just jumped on it. So I probably could have said anything.
Yeah.
And people would have found out a way to download the app
Gotcha.
and do it. So
what's been the most interesting learning for this process? You started off with wanting to do a podcast, and now you're like 30 episodes in. What's been like the most?
It was hard for me to do it by myself. And then just recently I brought in my producer, Stefan, and he's been doing everything that's tech-wise for me.
Okay.
And hooking me up with like ideas and showing me different ways and easier ways. And all I pretty much do is sit down and he'll let me check my mic, and when I'm ready to go, I'll just go. I don't have to think about anything anymore.
Okay.
But in the beginning by myself, that was so hard to figure out how to just sit there, because I'm essentially just talking to myself.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, right?
So you have to get over that weirdness. You have to get over I'm literally sitting here talking to myself in hopes someone's going to catch on and be like, yeah, you know what? You're right. Yeah, you know what? I feel you. I get that.
Right.
But it's just one of those things you just ignore and you go wherever you want to go. And that was a fucking weird learning experience. I had my roommate walk in through the front door, because I do it literally in the living room, and just randomly he'd walk in, and I had no idea he'd be coming home. I'm just like, awkward.
So did you cut it, or did you just continue to go? And
Those ones aren't even released. I have tons that are just like, I would get 30 minutes in, and I'd be like, you know what? Fuck, this is stupid.
Right.
And then I'd sit there for a minute and recollect myself, and there's only a couple times that's ever happened. But I have a ton of stuff that's, labeled like blooper reel 132.
Right.
Yeah, there's tons of stuff that I don't know what I'm going to do with, but I have tons of stuff that if I listen to, I'd be like, damn, that's fucking retarded.
Yeah, I've thought about, like, I haven't done as many retakes. I usually just throw them up when they suck, but I've thought about going through my old ones and trying to see if you can put together like some sort of like a highlight reel, like the worst fails of just right out of the gate, like the first 5 words that you say, you just end up fumbling your words. And
Who put together the intro that you have now? Because that wasn't always your intro. You used to do like just regular music you would pick, right?
Yeah.
And then it'd feed into your episode. But now you actually have a like regular,
like a theme song.
Yeah, a theme in the beginning. You made that?
Yeah, I made that one.
You just took clips from all the episodes?
Yeah. So what I did was I noticed that some podcasts had like intro songs or something thrown together, and so I'm basically just stealing ideas from other podcasts. And so,
absolutely, man. I think that's the only way that everyone who starts a podcast and that's fresh like us is going to grow. Is we
Right.
have to learn somewhere.
Yeah.
And we got to find something that sticks. And
Yeah, I never even look at my podcast as anything that's going to be like the masterpiece. I'm just trying to figure out how to do it, and then maybe like someone else comes along or another idea comes along that this is kind of just a trial run for it. I don't really look at. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But basically, to answer your question, what I did was I just took a song that had a song that I liked. It was a DJ Shadow song that had a lot of sampling in it already, because I wanted to sort of camouflage or just sort of keep whoever's listening accustomed or like trained to hear random samples or like confusion of it, so I can mix in those clips from other podcasts. So basically, I would listen to a handful of podcasts that I'd been on and just looked for any reference they had towards my podcast, like if it was my name or the name of the podcast, and then I just cut those out and then just kind of mixed them in with, the sort of confusing song that was already on there, so it sort of, kind of fits. Because if it's like a song you're used to hearing that's pretty smooth and without interruption, to throw all those samples on top of it would be kind of weird. So it's basically that was like the whole thing.
you inspired my new intro that I have on mine.
I haven't heard it.
It's well, first I have a cut from Donald Trump at one of these, battle rap-offs that all these parties do together in the political world, and he says, well, nobody really listens to your radio station, so you can check the ratings. And then it goes into Eazy-E's Sorry Louie, because when I was first on, I think that was the first episode that I was on your podcast, you played that song after you did your intro and introduced the podcast episode. So now it's Trump telling me no one listens to my radio station into the Eazy-E song, and that's literally every episode. So when you turn on, from episode like 20 and then 21 and 22, every beginning of the episode has that. And then I just pick a regular, not a regular whatever song, but like I try to get creative at the end and try to, my guests get to pick their own songs when they come on and shit. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, I like to make it interesting for them instead of just like, hey, come over and let me just drill you about some stuff and then go ahead and like peace out and you'll hear the episode when it's released. I let my guests like sit there during the editing process and everything.
Oh, wow.
I let them like, if they want to hear stuff, if they're like, oh, what did I say about this? Like Stefan will go back and, play it in front of them and be like, well, this is what it was. Like, you want to hear it? You want to keep it? Like, what's up? Sometimes I've only done one where I had a guest do a full episode with me. It was an hour and 15 minutes of talking. I emailed it to him after I had it all finished. He hated the way he sounded. So he's like, I don't want that released. It was a damn good fucking episode. It's a damn good conversation, but he won't let me release it.
Sucks, right?
It's bad. It's bad. It's bad for business, man.
Yeah. No, I mentioned on my last podcast that it had been a while since I posted a podcast, but I had actually recorded like full on episodes with people who were just like, delete that, don't get rid of it, or don't post it, get rid of it, which is fine with me because I don't want to post anything anybody doesn't like.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I definitely don't want, I don't know if I want anybody in the editing process, but if they give me like a red light or a green light that says posted or not posted, I'll listen then, but I don't know.
So far, the majority of people that have been on my podcast, they've been like just real close friends and they're just interested in they're just interested, period, because they have no idea what really a podcast is. They don't like, you'd be surprised how many people I've told, oh, Like, you listen to podcasts? Like, well, no, I don't even know how to find a fucking podcast. It's like, well, we live kind of in that world right now where you should know how to get, you know, a podcast downloaded to your phone at some point or somewhere, you know, watch one or so. You got to know what a podcast is. It baffles me how many people don't.
Right. Yeah, I run into people all the time like, oh, I love podcasts. And then they run down their laundry list of podcasts that they listen to. And I'm just like, yeah, nowhere, not even in my neighborhood, you know? But then sometimes I'll meet people and we have like an identical list of subscribed podcasts. And it's like, okay, you get it. We're in that same. Not that any podcast genre or like community is any better than the rest, but
some get it and some don't. I think I've ran into a few too where it's I tell them, they're like, oh, you have a podcast, and you can see it in their eyes. They really are interested, and you tell them, yeah, like I have a podcast that's like related to this, that, and the other. Like if you listen to these, and they're like, oh, that's all I listen to. Those are my key ones. Like, well, you might want to listen to this one, but it's not. Exactly. It's up the same alley as it doesn't have, I really think, a genre. You know, it's just a conversation piece, I guess. I don't know what you would even call it. It's a little comedy. It gets serious sometimes, you know, and some things are weird. You know, I don't really know what to fucking genre it as.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of hard to describe. Once like you get enough of them going, then you can probably see like a consistent theme.
Like at what number?
Who fucking knows?
Because I don't see that happening with mine, really. I mean, I have a theme of where I guess the theme would be when you tune into mine, you know what you get, and it's not expecting, you know, it's, how do I say it? It's, you know, you expect to hear like nothing, I guess, or like just random of everything. You don't expect one category. You don't expect a political, you don't expect a sports, you don't expect music only. You kind of get all of it all the time. And sometimes it's heavier on one end. Sometimes when my guests come on, it's something completely different. I had this guy come on who was in a Disney social club, and I kept calling it a gang, and he kept correcting me. It's a gang, but it's not a gang. It's a organized gang. It's like like Eagles Club, but they go to Disneyland and they all hang out and they have vests and patches and they have a name, and you know, they run in packs and they're not doing anything.
How old are these people?
They're, you know, like mid-20s, 30s. Like some have families and stuff. Like some.
Are you sure? You sure they have families?
Well, yeah, they're in the pictures.
Definitely don't love them.
They're in the pictures at Disneyland.
do not let your family.
I'm surprised you haven't heard about Disney social clubs living so close to LA.
I pay attention to zero things Disney regardless.
I was the same way, but I got a lot of friends that are into it, you know, so. I had Tyler come on. He talked about his Disney social club that he was in. And then I had, before he was my producer, Stefan came on, and all we talked about was music. And then, you know, I had my buddy Will come on, and all we talked about was pretty much like weed. You know, it's all variety of shit. It gets weird sometimes. Sometimes it's not. So I don't know.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
You don't have to, like, paint yourself into a corner or categorize yourself. It's an early relationship, bro. Let's not label it. Let's not label it right now. Just, you know, have a good time.
I know a lot of people who have podcasts, and they tell me, you need to find a niche. You need to find the groove that, you know, people are going to catch interest in, and you're going to stick with that, and that's what's going to make you money, and that's what's going to get you the views, and that's what's going to get you the ratings and stuff. And I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure if I keep doing this for a while, it might catch on. If it doesn't, at least I have a catalog of episodes to sit on, you know.
Well, I feel the same way about people's like Instagrams. Like people have told me before, like you need to have an aesthetic, you need to have something that, you know, advertises your brand or, you know, gives people an idea of what direction or blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, all the Instagram accounts that I like that have millions of followers don't have an aesthetic. And a lot of the podcasts that I listen to you'd have a rough time sort of categorizing them. So it's like for the podcasts that I listen to, they're not short. People tell me to edit my podcast, but the ones that I like are hours on end, and they're all rough. They're not polished. And again, you'd have a hard time, you know, really describing what like the whole overall picture is. So I don't know. When people try to give me advice and say like, you need to pick a lane and stay with it, and you know, whether it be a podcast or social media, it's kind of tough to take that advice because people have given me that same advice. But it's like the people that I like don't follow that format. So why do you think that? You know.
Yeah, and like we were saying earlier, I think because of the variety and just the catalog and in-depth of podcasts that we listen to and that we're into and follow, I feel like taking little bits of each and every, person or group or, whatever that you listen to, taking just a little bit of each and making something into your own, because you're familiar with everything. So it's comfortable in a way. You're, either comfortable being on camera or you're comfortable just doing audio, so you have two different realms to work with. You can do a lot with video. You could also do a lot with audio only, because I think the majority of people who listen to podcasts are audio only.
Right.
So it's not like you need to do video podcasts and you need to have it set up this way and you need to always have guests. I think if you just do your thing, and eventually, I think you also have to promote yourself out like a shit fucking ton, just like anything else. But you get that shit handled. Just be yourself,
Well, do you really feel like you should? I don't know. This is kind of a weird question, but
Hit me.
do you think that you should have to market your podcast? And I guess what I mean is, in the beginning, I kind of feel like I just need to figure it out, get comfortable with it. I don't really care, like, if 100,000 people know about it, and really, like, I'm okay with, like, I get, I don't know, a couple hundred downloads an episode or something like that, which I'm completely fine with, because I know that's a consistent number that's, like, slowly growing, but, like, I'm not trying to build numbers. I know people who do that, like, again, with their Instagram accounts, and they're trying to get thousands and thousands of followers or hundreds of thousands of followers.
Absolutely, yeah.
I don't get that, because it's like the number of followers you have or subscribers you have doesn't validate the quality of work that you're doing. And I don't even think the quality of work is something that needs being validated. It's just like, do you have people who are interested that are finding it? And I don't really necessarily, because I'm not trying to monetize. So I don't know that, I mean, in the beginning, do you really have to think about marketing it and exposing your brand or your podcast? Or is
I really
it just
think
for the
it-
love of the game? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. There's people who have their own agendas. I mean, as far as what they do in general, in a business sense. So, I mean, even if, you're a chick into makeup and you do nails and you start your Instagram of nothing but nails, yeah, you're going to want the numbers up because you got your agenda. You want business, you want revenue, you want people to come in, you want the percent numbers to come in, For people who are into marketing themselves out, yeah, you got to do it a lot. I feel like, yes, you have to. But for people who aren't, down for that, they just want to do it for funsies and just have, their own kind of, I guess, life audio documented, and just with friends and with family, like fucking like we're doing, then no. Then you don't need to. And it's for fun. And whatever numbers you do get, and I think you texted me that when I was talking to you about when I started my podcast, like the fucking numbers were coming out the gate, and I was texting you like, what's up with that? And you're like, take the fans where you get them, man, and just keep rolling. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, those numbers don't mean shit. You just keep going.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. That's what I was wanting to see back too, because that's exactly what I was feeling. I was like, this doesn't mean anything, but what the fuck does it mean?
Yeah. I do
know?
the thing too where I look at like the global statistics, and I'm just like, who the fuck do I know in this state or this country, or were they passed to me from somebody, or is it like some weird thing where like the IP address is pinging off of something
That's
else?
what I'm saying, right?
But no, I'm with you. You can't really focus on that. I think it's just like anything else that you first, like you work in radio, right? For example, you're in a position now in your career that, there was a point in time in the beginning where you're just happy to be there. You weren't worried about marketing yourself.
I'm still happy to be there, but I also feel like there's a lot more weighing down. Like, I got more things to do. I'm not obligated to do them, but if you want to be a big shark and not a small minnow, you kind of go out of your way to do these things. So now, not before when I was in radio and then I left, and now that I'm back, it's different now. So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I guess what I'm saying is, people like us that are, well, I say us because I'm including you in like the stages. It seems so early for me that I wouldn't imagine that anybody. Sorry, I'm kind of lightweight watching this Raiders Eagles Christmas Monday night game right here. Yeah, so I just don't get it. Like I said, even with social media, it's just like, just be followed by the people who like you.
Right.
And then let's just work on that.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
eventually, if you've got a good enough product that your numbers are booming, then look at the focus. But right now, it's like learn how to drive. It's like let's just not crash the car
Well, there's also a lot of people like
before we worry about racing.
Yeah, absolutely. But I know a couple of people that have like 1 or 2 point some odd K in followers on Instagram, and they don't live any extravagant like Kardashian life to have those numbers. It's just for some reason they did something along the way, and they've had the account for so long, and they've been doing some kind of, I guess, like structured. I don't know how they got those numbers, but they're just, you wouldn't even know it. You'd meet these people and be like, "Oh, you got an Instagram? I'll follow you." And you pop it open on your phone, like, "What the fuck? You have 2.3 thousand followers? Like, what the fuck? Who are you?" It's like, no, I'm no one. I don't do anything. It's just I post quality. Like,
Right. Well, I don't know, because I have like 1,300 or so followers or something, but a lot of that shit is, people just automatically connected from you from like Facebook or Twitter, and then if like I use the repost app, and I notice like when I repost something, I get like people who
'Cause
have
of the
bots that
hashtags.
like try to follow me.
Yeah.
But now that I have a private account, I see the requests come in and I have to approve them. But when I had a public account, then
Okay.
they would just follow me. And so then, that's, it depends.
what do you think you are?
There's just a whole bunch, just a whole bunch of different things that get involved with like the number of people that are following you. That doesn't really have anything to do with anything.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It means absolutely dog shit.
Yeah, I
in
have
the
talked
end.
to people all the time that are like, I'm trying to get to 13,000, and I'm just
For
like,
what?
but why? Yeah.
What do you get?
Yeah. I
Your
get
check
it.
in
Like
the
you
mail?
can monetize at a certain point and advertise, but people just try to seek validation in that number when it's like, yeah, but your pictures suck, bro. You know what I mean?
Well, it's what I found when I started a business page on Facebook rather than having a personal account. Facebook gave me money to promote my page out. So right now I have automatic boost going out, and I can't control them now because Facebook gave me $30, and each post is like, I think they do like $3 a day. And I've seen a little bit come in, like a couple followers. I think in a week I got like 3 followers in a week, which I felt like, yeah, they gave me free money, but I feel like that money that is being put into promotion, I feel like the number should be a little higher for,
Right.
I mean, $1 a follower or $1.50 a follower. That seems kind of fucking ridiculous because they're not doing anything. They're not liking your post. They're not
just a
promoting.
number.
They're not promoting you. Yeah, you're paying $1.50 for one like. I found that kind of ridiculous. But there's boost going out that I can't control, and sometimes I'll log in, and it'll say like 400 or 500 people reached, and then it'll have like some odd number of likes and no shares and no one's really promoting it. It's just kind of numbers. It's really weird on the
Yeah.
promotional aspect of it. I didn't deal with that until I started my podcast, dealing with like the actual business pages. I don't know if they're it's like a regular whatever.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess the question, I guess it's interesting, because you want to see what the the results are for your efforts, but there's no way to really gauge the quality of your work or how people are really enjoying it on like the listener end.
You got to ask them face to face, straight up.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. I get like an occasional message or text messages, and I'm sure you do when people listen to it. That's always nice and stuff. But yeah, I guess I'm beating a dead horse here, but I just don't think that I don't know, like marketing your social media or your podcast is really like where people should focus in the beginning.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No. Not unless you have your own agenda, unless you're like really going for.
Or you already
that
have like an
goal.
audience too.
True.
So it's like, say
True.
you put yourself amongst the ranks of a certain caliber of entertainer, celebrity, public figure, whatever, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. So like what your podcasts have to be competitive because you already have like an agenda and an audience. But we're just starting from scratch. It's like, ugh.
And it's hard for people like us too, where we're just one person. Because you are just one person. Me, I branched out and had to grab another person because
Right.
I felt like I was falling off the rails. I felt like I was going off in a direction where eventually I'd be too deep, and people would be like, "Man, you need to be over here," but you're already so far.
Right.
You were not going to get you, and you ain't coming back. So
Yeah.
see you later. Whatever you're doing on that podcast thing, man. So I had to grab someone, and they kind of Stefan, helped me out tremendous.
Well, which direction were you going in?
I had no idea.
When did he pull you back?
I had no idea, but the direction we started going was more or less. I always have a built-in guest, okay, and he will essentially help me out if I start losing track. If I start talking about a subject, and I'm like, you know what I really want to talk about right now, and then I end up trailing off on an off subject, he'll be like, you were talking about this over here. He's like, hey, dude.
Oh, he'll literally tell
he'll
you?
be like, hey, come back.
Oh, well, that's cool.
So I have someone there to kind of direct me and be like, hey, because I have a sponsor too. I have a shirt company that's helping me out. In 2018, we're doing all these challenges for 12 months, and he's doing a shirt for every month
Okay.
that coincides with each challenge. And
What
they're
are
all,
the challenges?
Oh, there's a no fast food for 30 days. There's workout challenge. There's a yoga challenge. There's a no caffeine month. There's a no tobacco month. There's a no pot month. There's just like a whole bunch of shit that we all sat down and kind of figured out together. And we're like, let's do this. Like, we're cycling around the Central Valley. We're going to put in, I think, 100 and some odd miles in 30 days. So we're just going to be on our bikes every day. And we're going to record it all and podcast about it and update it and shit. And,
Who's doing your t-shirts? Sorry, I interrupted you.
Pulse Merch is
Okay,
doing our shirts.
Pulse Merch.
Yes, they're back
Nice.
at it.
Back at it again with
They're
the Pulse
back
merch.
at it again, dude. Cohen's never really went anywhere because he lives so close to me, and he's always doing shit. And I'm always talking to him about it. And he's like, dude, I'm down to do that. And you know, he's been staying busy all the time, man. He's still down to do the AML shirts and shit, man.
Yeah, that was
fuck 'em hats.
If for people who don't know what we're talking about, I was thinking about doing shirts and hats when I first started. But what happened was, it wasn't that Pulse Merch wasn't going to help us, and it wasn't that I wasn't interested in it, but it was like, if I have, you know, a couple hundred people that are listening per episode, how many people are actually going to buy these shirts? And am I going to end up with like a, you know, a garage full of boxes
Hey,
of
man.
stuff that I'm not going to be able to
Not necessarily a bad
to
thing.
sell? And on top of that, like, yeah, it would be like even more depressing to find out that I have like 200 ghost subscribers and it was actually listening. So when I put out the like shirt pre-order, I don't get any orders except for like my mom, you know, or
She'll
you.
buy 30.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll buy a few.
I wasn't prepared for that kind of reality.
And then, you know, at Christmas next year, it's just a bunch of podcast shirts being handed out.
Yeah.
Because we have so
Absolutely.
many. No, actually, I reached out to a few people because I made these designs and then I texted videos of them over to people. Like, kind of, hey, what do you think about this? You know, this is what I plan on doing this year. Would you be interested? And people saw a few designs and were like, fuck yeah, I would buy that shirt, no doubt. So I have a handful of people waiting. And with that handful, it's a pretty good kick, you know, start to Pulse Merch, you know, to Cohen to be like, hey, there's actually people out here that are interested, you know, let's get this fucking shit rolling and let's do this. And, you know, all the money that is coming in from my podcast office shirts is going straight to him. I'm not asking for any of it.
So are you the mock-ups for the t-shirts, are those on your website or Pulse Merch's website? Or
Not
just-
yet.
Okay.
Not yet. Yeah, because it's Christmas right now. So we're actually waiting until the new year when the yoga challenge starts. And then we'll do the shirts for that month. And every month, a new shirt will be released at the end of the previous month so that you see what's coming.
Okay, so I imagine you're going to tweet out those details or...
It'll be tweeted
Whatever.
or it's on all of our all of my podcast websites.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll all be there if you know follow along. Then it'll be posted every single month that we do it. So
Right on.
but that's that. I mean, that's the only agenda that I had when the podcast was going in a direction because I started in August 2017. Here we are in December still 2017. I figured to secure another year of podcast, why not just do something every month that you podcast about instead of trying to struggle weekly trying to find subjects or trying to drain the internet dry or try to pull people against their will to do podcasts that they don't want released. Just did my own thing, grabbed a couple friends and was just like, let's do this. You guys down? And they're just like, yeah, it'd be fun. It's
Nice.
like, well, let's podcast about it and let's take videos and we'll post to our social medias and, you know, get our families and friends interested and shit. There's already people for the cycle challenge that want to grab their bikes and ride with us.
Nice.
And, you know, that's great because it just proves that we're not faking the funk kind of thing. And there's actually real people out there that are, you know, like trying to be a part of it. So that'll be fucking great.
A little biker gang.
Sure. I mean, there's Disney gangs. Why can't I start my podcast, Biker Gang?
Dude, what are people doing? Why?
Strange times, man. It's a weird
When did this
world.
start? No offense. You said somebody you had on your podcast.
Yeah, my buddy Tyler. He started his Disney social club, I think this year. and it's small. It's a small little chapter of people. You know,
Dude,
it's
Tyler, I know we don't know each other, but call me, dude. We gotta talk, bud.
you'd love to talk to Tyler. He's an interesting kid, man. I love him. He's been a best friend for a few years.
You're best friends with the dude that has a Disney Social Club.
Hey, he's got Disney tattoos, man. He's about that life.
So this has been the Adventures of Michael Lee podcast.
All right, we're peace out.
It's getting really late. No, I'm kidding.
See, that's just I got weird shit happening over on
so
my
if-
end, man.
If people are interested and they want
Your
to,
followers probably wouldn't understand if they tuned in.
well, help them understand. That's I guess what I'm saying. So
I
if
guess-
we're going to talk about your new podcast, you got this Disney Social Club dude on.
That's just
So tell
one
me
guy.
about it.
That's
Why-
just one guy that came on just recently. It was fun.
Well,
It's
I'm
just-
interested.
It was just fun to kick around different stuff around the podcast because mine's not structured. It's not like I don't even know if yours is structured where people tune in and
No.
exactly
No structure whatsoever.
exactly like get a feel for what they're gonna get. But definitely not on my end. It's just all over the place, you know? Like I said, I got a guy come over and talk about a Disney Social Club. That's just one episode. You know, tune into the others.
I have to listen to this episode because I have so many questions.
We might answer them on that one, but you know, I don't want to make this all about Tyler. He's had his
No, I'm going
hour
to make
of-
this all about Tyler. Tyler, you
fuck
still
Tyler.
listening?
Sorry, Tyler.
Turn the volume up.
Sorry, Tyler. I love you, man. He's probably at Disneyland right now. He's probably not listening anytime soon.
Tyler,
I was-
are you listening at Disneyland right now, Tyler? Where are you at? Are you at the? Are you getting a beer and a turkey leg over at California Adventure tie? What's going on, bro? Call me, FaceTime me, wherever you're at, Tyler. You're listening to this. I need to know.
Fucking killing me, man.
I need to know.
Oh, poor Tyler. Yeah, but I mean,
Poor Taylor.
poor
Jack Johnson.
I guess if you want to tune in to a podcast that has, you know, like kind of jabs at certain things that we live around, if you want to listen to someone kind of go off on things that maybe you've thought about, but, you know, have talked about out loud, but have never like really kind of gone deep into. You know, I did an End of the World podcast recently when the world was supposed to end. I dedicated a whole fucking hour to
When was the world gonna end?
just this last summer, I think, at some point in June or July. We were supposed to get hit by a comet.
Okay.
And it's like the 7th or 8th or 9th time it's happened in everyone's lifetime. So it's just like an occurring thing, you know, like where the atmosphere spins around you and there's things in the atmosphere that spin and sometimes they get close and sometimes they're not close, you know? Sometimes people think they're going to get hit by a rock in space and sometimes they don't. Like,
What are you talking about?
Exactly. It goes deep.
It was one of those episodes.
It goes deep sometimes, you know? I get really
Okay.
fucking baked. I get drunk and just go off the rails sometimes. And
Awesome.
Other times it's structured enough to where it's listenable. But there's enough episodes to where, you know, you'll find yours. You'll find yours.
I gotta.
It's not going to stop either, by the way.
And it shouldn't.
It's definitely not. Podcasting's fucking great. You got me into it because when I found out what podcasting was, I found out that you were also podcasting too. And that's about the same time that I found other podcasts and then I found yours. So you kind of fell in the loop of all of the beginner podcasts that kind of set me up. And listened to yours a lot. And then I was on yours. So I listened, you know, to all of the other, you know, I listened to your whole catalog or whatever. Have been up and down episodes. And then I'll listen to all my others. And I figured like, fuck, man, like I should be doing this too. I think everyone should be doing some form, you know, I don't know. I just like to listen to old episodes and see videos and pictures. Like I'm all about that life.
Yeah, well, that's originally where the idea came from. Is I was having conversations with people, and I felt like I should have had a microphone there because like it should have been it sounded like a podcast worthy conversation, but I wasn't a podcaster. And then I got the equipment and I was like, oh wait, it's not just a conversation anymore when there's microphones or recording equipment or video stuff. It's like, how do you now learn how to have a genuine conversation amidst the distraction of, hey, we're podcasting this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's tough. It's tough to just sort of like allow yourself to ignore all the distractions and have one of those conversations for podcasts, which was the inspiration for it.
You ever, you know, sit down with the people on your show and their demeanor and attitude and everything changes as soon as they realize.
We just talked about that in the beginning. I have a couple episodes that I had to burn because people got really weird when they talked to the microphone.
But I mean, what I'm saying is they did the whole episode though, you know what I mean? And they're a completely different person the entire time until the
Yes.
mic like completely turns off, and they're just like, okay, there you are again. Like, who was that person for the last half hour or whatever?
One person
people
told
get
me.
strange.
The butcher told me in the middle of the podcast, this ain't gonna work. Like, we can't do this. So I was like, all right, at least he's self-aware. Jeremy, on the other hand, we went like an hour and a half, and when we were done, mics were off. We looked at each other, and he was like, yeah, we can't let that air. And I was like,
Jeremy, no,
Yeah.
come on, man.
yeah. Well, I mean, to his credit, he was doing the best that he could to, how do I put this? He was trying to sound interesting.
Trying too hard, maybe.
Right, but he recognized it. He was just on like once the pedal hit the metal, I think he was just like on that track, and he was just, he wasn't gonna break character. He had committed to that whatever he was trying to express, that was his thing. And then at the end, he was like, no. So give him credit for that when he stuck it out. But yeah, no, I get those people all the time. It's the worst.
I've actually had people like ask me about 35 minutes into a conversation when we can start doing the podcast. And I'm like, we have been. And they're like, oh no, dude, let's start over. I'm like, that's not how it works, man.
Never.
That's not exactly how it goes. I mean, we can start here now, I guess, that we're here in this moment. I guess we can start if you want to start.
Yeah, no, that's the one thing. I always put the mics on early so people don't even know, and they just get accustomed to it. It's
just
kind of like a
talking,
warm up. Yeah. Like this one, I can't believe we're already at like the 40-minute mark, coming up 38, 39 minutes.
I can't believe it's not butter.
What else you got going on?
Dude, I just been back at work at the radio station, killing the game.
Which radio station you at?
All of them, man. I'm at actually kind of. I'm at all the major ones in the valley. So I'm with Cumulus, and Cumulus is all the big country stations. Rocks. It's the big country station, the big rock station, the big hip hop station, the big pop station, and our classical station, or it's like light rock. And then we have a what do you call it? ESPN radio station, a sports radio station. Those two are, I guess the only outlets in the valley. So they're not monsters, but they're still recognizable.
And you're talking about Stockton, Modesto.
Stockton, Modesto, the Tri-Valley, essentially. So as soon as you get into the Bay Area, it fuzzes out. As soon as you get up into the hills, going the other way, it fuzzes out. You get down to probably as far south as well past Merced. I would say like whatever, half hour or so past Merced, whatever that would be. North, probably as close to Santa Rosa. So we cover big areas, and we're monster stations. We're really the only ones in the area. So I worked there for a few years, and then I got let go. Did my own bartending gig. I was like doing music gigs. I was doing, just like whatever, trying to find money stuff, whoring out. I was fucking doing whatever I could. Honestly, man, I was just trying to pay some shit. Went out to a concert, and it was a K-Win concert. Met up with an old buddy who
K-Win is the radio
K-Win's
station.
the hip hop station, yeah. And it was my old buddy that is the program director and promotion director for the radio station. He saw me, and we were kicking it and talking. The next day, he hits me up. He's like, "Hey, without your permission, I kind of threw it back out to the bosses at the station. Like, what if we brought Lewis back?" And everyone kind of thumbs upped it. So, and then the next day, I got in contact with my boss now, and I guess the day after that, it was like just day by day by day, I ended up going in. It wasn't even an interview. It was just rekindling friendships and talking about stuff. It wasn't even an interview because he already wanted to hire me and I already wanted to go back. So we just signed paperwork, and I just been back, just kind of doing my thing. I want to go on air, so I've been training to go on air now. And yeah, it's just kind of different now because I feel like I'm older, more mature. I understand the business now. I understand that it's like kind of serious. If you want to take it as a career, radio is always going to be there, and it's always been there. So it's definitely something that I put some thought into, and I'm going to pursue. So,
Hell yeah.
and it's fucking right up my alley since I started podcasting. Now I want to go on air, and I'm comfortable with things in front of my face, and I'm comfortable talking, in a certain demeanor to reach a certain demographic, and also on the side with my podcast, just talking the way I've normally been doing and reaching that audience, Hopefully, I don't run into a conflict of interest with the two.
Right.
I don't see that happening, but I'll cross that bridge when I get there.
Yeah, well, if you're so big enough with your podcast that the radio station has to start talking to you, that's probably a good sign for your podcast, right?
Or a bad sign for my radio career. I don't know. I don't really know what to think about that. There's other DJs actually at the station that have podcasts of their own, so I'm not too worried about it until they start worrying about it.
Right.
Because they're bigger than their podcasts, and they're on air DJs, and they're morning hosts and afternoon hosts. People know their podcasts are booming, obviously, because they reached back out to the radio audience. So off the bat, they got the Ks, the 1, the 2Ks, the 2.3K follower, until they start walking around the halls talking about they got to cancel their podcast, I have nothing to worry about.
Right, for sure.
So
it's all low level stuff.
Absolutely. I did get told that if I wanted to talk and post about shit on social media, I should disconnect myself from anything that might get me in trouble. So,
well, you can usually do the waiver, like I am an employee of blah 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 broadcasting station. The opinions that I express are my own.
True. Yeah. I've mentioned it, and people are just telling me that as long as, obviously, why would I be? But as long as I'm not on my podcast bashing, or giving information that isn't supposed to be given to the general public, stuff like that.
Same thing with social media, as long as you're not
absolutely,
doing anything.
And I don't do that anyways. My shit's completely different. I mean, if you think you know me from hearing me before you even meet me, or follow me online, and then you actually meet me and follow me and see me, the things I post about, the things I talk about in person, it's not what you would probably think at all.
Right.
And I'm trying to work on that. I'm trying to work on being a guy that you can kind of figure out, because I don't want so much. My problem's been, I guess people find me so you're so all over the place. We can't grab a hold of you to actually focus in on what you're trying to tell us, so we're just going to give up and just leave you alone. So I'm trying to hone it all down. I'm trying to calm down a little bit and let people grasp a hold of what they find interesting in me that I talk about, so that way I can at least grasp a hold of people and let them follow me along. And that's really, I'm not looking for followers, but I am looking for people that were into the same things that I'm into, so I can have kind of like a mini cult, I guess.
Yeah, well, a community.
Yeah, a
it's probably
community.
a safer word.
I'll use cult. I've used it before.
I'm not going to stop.
There's going to be some kind of ritual at the end. I think when I reach the 1000th episode, I might fucking sacrifice a goat live on YouTube or something.
I mean, why not? At that point,
I don't understand why I wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's for another podcast. But we're coming up on that 45-minute mark. You got anything else you want to tell the people?
How do you want to do this? Are we going to go Sharecast?
We can Sharecast.
So are you going to do your own intro and stuff on your episode?
Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll send you this file.
Okay.
And then you can do your own intro, outro, whatever you want to it.
Yeah, I'll just hand it to Stefan and see what he wants to do.
Yeah,
with
and
it.
I'll do my own intro and outro or whatever to it. But I'll let people know that it also can be heard on your podcast. And
that's
doubled up on the efforts.
My websites are all Don't Take This Personal. That's the name of the podcast. Is Don't Take This Personal podcast. We're on Podbean, so it's don'ttakethispersonal.podbean.com. If you're on Facebook and you want to like it, it's facebook.com, Don't Take This Personal. If you're on Instagram and you want to follow, it's instagram.com/Don't Take This Personal. And eventually we'll be on iTunes. We should have done that this past weekend, but we had such a crazy holiday. People were getting drunk and people were on mushrooms and stuff, and it was a holiday this year. So
as they should be.
So no business got done as... this is the only business that I got done was this podcast with you that I really wanted to get planned to do. Yeah, everything is just don'ttakethispersonal.podbean.com. You can find all of it. That's the whole catalog. I wouldn't suggest starting from one because it's going to take you a while. I have them built into seasons, so I'm into season 2 now. If you want to start in season 2, that's probably where I would start.
Okay.
That's where I brought in the new sound. It's not voice memoed anymore. It's not off the iPhone. It's actually real recording studio stuff. We're in a studio and we have a system. We have editing tools and all that good stuff. So I would start in season 2 if you want to start listening to my podcast.
Okay, cool.
That's where I would start. That's where I would go.
Yeah, for me, it's all my personal information. So it's the Adventures of Michael Lee podcast. My last name is not Lee. If you're looking for me on social media, I'm at Michael, Michael, My last name is Peternell, Peternel, which is why I go with Michael Lee, because Lee's my middle name, and Michael Lee is a lot easier to find than Michael Peternell. But at Michael Peternell on Twitter, at Michael Peternell on Instagram, Michael Peternell on Facebook. I post the links in the bio. All that's there.
All the links are in the bios.
And I apologize, guys, if this seems a little lackadaisical, but I'm off a lot of alcohol and food because it is Christmas. So hopefully you're lazy too and on your way home from your Christmas thing, thinking about your New Year's thing. But I don't know, for Adventures of Michael Lee podcast, and don't take this personal. Guess we're out.
Peace.